It's been nearly a week now since the body of a mother was found on a Harford County trail. Repressed police on the search for a killer. 2 officers hurt after a young person in a stolen car leads officers on a pursuit from Baltimore to Prince George's County. How police are cracking down on stolen vehicles. And how are Safe Streets workers hired, and who's responsible for the program? The new questions tonight as we continue our investigation.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Tonight, the search for a killer continues. 37-year-old Rachel Morin went missing last weekend. The mother of 5's body was discovered Sunday afternoon on a popular walking trail in Bel Air. Now tonight, the Harford County Sheriff's Office underscores the need for community help. Good evening, I'm Maxine Stryker. Thanks for staying with us. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has the latest from the Ma and Pa walking trail.
Tonight, police still not able to say whether this was a random act or planned attack. The people that we spoke with on the trail today on edge and anxiously awaiting answers, some of them also bringing flowers to add to the tribute from Rachel's family.
This is my happy place.
Bel Air's well-traveled Ma and Pa walking trail. Once Mary Bloomberg's path to peace and tranquility. Now,
there was a little apprehension.
The scene of a terrible tragedy.
I just felt the sadness when I kept seeing the flowers all over the trail.
Police presence remaining high as the search for a suspect continues in the case of Rachel Morin, whose pictures line the trees, a touching tribute from her family.
Which I think is a beautiful thing, but it was like a constant reminder.
The 37-year-old mother of 5 entering the trail around 6 p.m. Saturday. Her boyfriend reporting her missing that evening. Then, Sunday afternoon,
they have located the Rachel subject on the Ma and Pa.
Her body discovered in a tunnel drain not far from the William Street entrance.
I understand many of you want answers, and we do too.
Almost a week out from the alleged murder, no suspects named and no details released concerning her death. Instead, law enforcement renewing calls for new information, establishing an email for community tips. And Friday morning, a group of 4 potential witnesses that may have observed Rachel Morin on the trail tracked down. Intensifying the investigation, Maryland State Police and FBI agents also brought on to analyze evidence.
I think they're working it as expeditiously as they can.
Former FBI agent Tyrone Powers warning, the longer an investigation lingers, the more difficult it is to make an arrest. However,
there's a lot to pull together. In the field, we always say don't rush to judgment, no matter how much publicity they're getting, because then you may get the arrest, but you may lose the case.
Meanwhile, Rachel's family enlisting nationally renowned criminal defense attorney Joseph Murthaugh to represent them as they ask for privacy during this difficult time.
We have to have police on our beautiful little trail, and it shouldn't be like that.
You may remember Joseph Murthaugh recently represented Roy McGrath, Larry Hogan's former aide turned fugitive, who died during a shootout with police in April. Today, I asked Murthaugh if Rachel's family is planning on taking some form of legal action or if he's simply representing them as a family spokesperson. As of News Time Tonight, though, I have not heard back. Reporting from the Ma and Pa Trail, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
The Harford County Sheriff's Office wants tips from anyone who was at or around the trail on the day Morin's body was found. So far, they say they've received over 100 tips. Fox 45 News has been following this story. Our complete coverage is available online at foxbaltimore.com. As Fox 45's investigation into Safe Streets continues, there are new questions tonight about who really is responsible for the program. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has been investigating the program for almost 2 years and has the latest.
We got a glimpse of the back and forth during the city council hearing last month following the Brooklyn mass shooting. The city says the nonprofits run the Safe Streets sites. The nonprofits often defer to the city when asked questions about how the program operates, yet City Hall still remains silent. When it comes to hiring Safe Streets workers, little is known about the process. Mayor Brandon Scott has made it clear a criminal record is not a hurdle to become a violence interrupter.
But we know that individuals who are doing Safe Streets work were in their past involved in criminal activity because that's what makes them credible.
We've questioned the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement several times if crimes are off limits from being considered for employment. We've never gotten a response. But based on a Fox 45 News investigation, it's becoming clear there may be no limits on a criminal rap sheet. Vernon Harper was hired as a violence interrupter for the Brooklyn Safe Streets site sometime after he got out of prison in 2013, serving time for a 1994 second-degree murder conviction. And in October of 2022, Harper pleaded guilty to federal drug charges. Prosecutors say Harper was coming from his Pikesville home to Brooklyn, where he worked for Safe Streets, to sell fentanyl. That Safe Streets site, run by Catholic Charities, a nonprofit we've rarely gotten responses from when we ask questions about Safe Streets, including these questions we sent on July 24th asking, are you aware of any criminal activity occurring in the Safe Streets program? If so, what instances are you aware of? And do you notify Monzi if or when there is an allegation of criminal activity by a Safe Streets worker? July 25th, we sent the questions again after not getting an answer. It wasn't until July 28th did Catholic Charities tell us to contact Monzi for the appropriate answers and responses. While Monzi often keeps quiet on questions about the program.
Good evening and welcome to the Public Safety and Government Operations Committee meeting.
Meanwhile, when Monzi was under the microscope facing intense questions by a city council following the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, the city agency deflecting questions.
I would need to defer to Catholic Charities to share the specifics of the conflicts that were mediated.
Catholic Charities then not answering directly about the type of conflict Safe Streets workers mediated before the shooting happened.
Respectfully, they have been answered, and they have been answered directly to Monzi.
So why wouldn't that be answered to the public? What is the problem?
I would have to defer, again, respectfully, to Monzi as to whether or not they want to share what's been shared with them.
Since the nonprofits aren't answering questions about the operations of the city's flagship gun violence prevention program, we again sent questions to Monzi Friday, asking, has Monzi ever considered encouraging community leaders without criminal records to apply for Safe Streets employment? Is it required that Safe Streets violence interrupters have a prior criminal history? What protections exist to ensure prior offenders do not re-offend while working for Safe Streets? Monzi not answering the latest round of our questions as the shift in responsibility for transparency continues. In a joint statement we received Friday, Catholic Charities and LifeBridge say that it is not a requirement for employees to have a criminal record to work for Safe Streets, and any candidate is vetted through the police department as well as through community panels during the hiring process. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Just last year, Fox 45 News obtained an email sent on behalf of then Monzi director Shante Jackson pledging support for a Safe Streets worker after he was charged in a deadly hit and run. That email said the man was released following the assistance and support of Mayor Scott and Monzi. A spokesperson later told Fox 45 News the email was referring to emotional support. In March, another Safe Streets worker was found not guilty in a murder case. He had a prior criminal record, including second-degree murder, assault, drug, and gun convictions, when Safe Streets hired him back in 2019. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Safe Streets needs to be more transparent on its hiring practices? So far, 98% of those who voted say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
We're following breaking news right now. Attorney General Merrick Garland has appointed a special counsel in the Hunter Biden probe. U.S. Attorney David Weiss has served as the Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney in the Hunter Biden probe for the past 5 years. Now, that order gives Weiss more powers than a typical U.S. attorney, and it puts the nation in uncharted territory, with 3 special counsels at the Justice Department currently investigating matters related to the sitting president, his son, and the previous president. Now, that move could also lead to a trial of President Joe Biden's son. Garland's order appointed Weiss comes after plea talks between the Justice Department and Hunter Biden fell apart in recent weeks. Well, House Republicans have slammed that appointment, with Kentucky Congressman James Comer calling it, quote, part of the Justice Department's efforts to attempt a Biden family cover-up.
A man in custody tonight after leading police on a pursuit through multiple jurisdictions in a stolen rental car. According to Baltimore police, the department's helicopter Foxtrot spotted the stolen car near the corner of Fayette and North Caroline Streets and alerted officers on the ground. But police say the suspect, 22-year-old Logan Butler, refused to stop, instead fleeing through multiple jurisdictions, with officers arresting him eventually in Prince George's County. During a town hall earlier this week, Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley admitted it's hard to stop suspects from stealing stealing another car after an arrest.
Unfortunately, as quickly as we arrest them, they're coming right back out and they're stealing another car. And our officers, they're getting a little frustrated, but they're not going to give up. We are going to continue to try to stop vehicles. Anyone who is committing a violation, we pull the vehicle over. We have license plate readers, which are technology that will read the license plate, tell us if a vehicle is stolen. We can pull it over.
BPD says Butler is facing several charges. New tonight, a Baltimore County woman has pleaded guilty to felony insurance fraud. According to Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown, 32-year-old Christina Frink was involved in a scheme to file fraudulent insurance claims, claiming she suffered from various accidents and medical issues. In each claim, she also allegedly submitted fake medical records. Her insurance company says they paid Frink more than $100,000 in benefits. She was sentenced to 5 years of supervised probation. Federal agents are investigating a house fire tonight in Anne Arundel County. This was the scene in Harwood. Firefighters responding to the scene after a 911 call came in for an explosion. Officials say the homeowner was the only person who lived at the house and wasn't home when the fire started. The homeowner says he believes the explosion sound came from a propane tank and oxygen tank in his home. No firefighters were hurt in the response. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives is investigating the cause of the fire. A new update in the death of a popular New York City dancer, the 17-year-old facing charges and why his attorney is claiming self-defense.
President Biden is asking for more than $20 billion in aid for Ukraine. I'm Janae Bones in Washington with why his request will be a hard sell.
And if you'll be heading anywhere tonight, temperatures will be in the 70s and the 80s. It'll be nice and quiet overnight, but then the heat cranks up tomorrow. I'll let you know how hot temperatures will be for the weekend in my full forecast.
The Biden administration is asking for another $20 billion for Ukraine. This coming at a time when most Americans are questioning U.S. support for the war. National correspondent Janae Bowens has the story.
The request for more Ukraine aid is fueling a growing political debate about the future of U.S. support for the war in Ukraine.
Coming back to Congress and to the American people saying we need to steal more of your money to give to them. And I think of it this way. Inflation is high, interest rates are high. All of this is a result of government spending.
Republicans continue to voice concerns about U.S. involvement and effectiveness.
I haven't voted for a dime to send Ukraine. I'm for Ukraine. Russia should have never done this. They can't win. We can throw all the money we want to, but unless we send NATO and our troops over, which we're not going to do if I got anything to do with it, then there's no chance.
The U.S. has been a fierce supporter for Ukraine ever since Russia invaded last year. And Congress has already approved $113 billion in aid for Ukraine. And with this latest request, that would bring that number up to $133 billion.
And I don't want to see the day that the Russian army crosses a border where we have to go fight them and meet them. Let's give Ukraine what they need to beat them now, drive them out.
But a recent poll from CNN found 55% of Americans believe Congress should not authorize additional funding to support Ukraine. 48% say that the U.S. needs to do more. That number down from 62% back in February 2022, with double-digit drops in support among independents and Republicans. Reports also show much of the most expensive and powerful U.S. weapons and vehicles given to Ukraine have been destroyed.
It's got everybody between a rock and a hard place. They've already caused the deficit of military equipment. So do we now steal from Americans to pay to replace the stockpiles? Or do we go with a dangerously low stockpile of these weapons and equipment?
The big question now is how long and how much should the U.S. support Ukraine?
National correspondent Janae Bowens joining us live now. And Janae, what does the Ukraine spending mean for the average American?
Right. So according to Richard Stern, who you just heard from in the piece, right now that aid is costing the average U.S. household $900. And if that request were to be approved, that would go up to $1,100 per household. Maxine.
All right, Janae, thanks so much for joining us. Trending now, a 17-year-old pleading not guilty to charges. He stabbed professional dancer O'Shea Sibley at a New York gas station just last month. Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez says a grand jury indicted the 17-year-old on charges that include murder as a hate crime. Gonzalez alleges the teen shouted racist and homophobic slurs at Sibley before the stabbing. The 17-year-old's defense attorney says the teen isn't guilty and is remorseful, adding he will be pursuing a self-defense argument.
He has pled not guilty, and he will remain not guilty for the duration of this case. I strongly suspect that we're going to proceed to a trial. He regrets what happens, certainly does. But it doesn't mean that he's guilty of a crime. It's two different things. All right, you should understand that.
Police say they believe Sibley was confronted by the suspect while he was voguing and playing Beyonce music outside of a Brooklyn gas station. The suspect is facing up to 25 years in prison.
Right now, you're taking a look over Baltimore and over Towson. It's mostly cloudy, but it's not super humid outside. However, on the HD radar, you can see a few showers across parts of the country. It's all part of our latest weather maker, and that's what's going to lead to our next chance for showers and storms. That comes a little bit later on into next week. 87 for the current temperature. It feels more like 88 over Towson. Winds are out of the northwest. Around the state, we're seeing temperatures mainly in the 80s, still feeling very warm at this time. Overnight, the numbers drop to the 60s and the 70s, and then by the afternoon, you'll notice the big rise in temperatures. We're looking at highs around 93 tomorrow and again on Sunday. After that, we'll be in the 80s and closer to average on Monday, but we will have our next chance for a few afternoon showers and storms, and it's all because of this latest weather maker cold front that's currently moving across the country. That arrives later into the weekend, but even overnight, the chance for a few stray showers. Notice tonight the showers would be very isolated. Not everyone would be dealing with rain. This does all clear by daybreak tomorrow. We start with plenty of sunshine. It looks good for the morning. Then into the afternoon, we'll have more clouds and possibly a few stray showers again overnight. This clears and we start Sunday morning also with dry weather and plenty of sunshine. By the afternoon, it's still looking great with plenty of sunshine, but we will have our next chance for a few showers and storms late Sunday night. That continues into Monday and again on Tuesday. The days won't be washouts, but we do stay mostly dry after that and into the rest of the work week. 71 for the low temperature tonight. Then tomorrow, our highs reach 93, and that means that we are staying above average for this time of year. You'll notice that it also will feel a little more humid, so if you'll be outside, make sure that you're practicing heat safety. We're also getting closer to the start of the school year, just 16 days away for Baltimore City and Baltimore County, along with Harford, Howard, and Anne Arundel counties, and then 24 days for Carroll, Cecil, and Kent counties. So we are counting down to the bus stop forecast. Coming up, I'll have a look at the temperatures for the weekend and when we have our next chances for rain into next week in the exclusive 10-day forecast.
As wildfires continue to blaze through Maui, volunteers from the Red Cross are heading over to help. The personal ties to the island some of those volunteers have. Next. As relief organizations across Hawaii ask for donations amid the ongoing wildfires, volunteers from the Red Cross are heading to Maui to try to help. Many of the volunteers have a personal connection to the islands. Karina Vargas from our Sinclair sister station has the story.
Peter Buza called Hawaii home for many years, and the connections run deep. Buza was born and raised on the island of Kauai. His brother lives in Maui and lost everything with the recent wildfires.
He lost his house, he lost one of his cars, and he's living with a friend, I believe, in Kahului, Maui now. And all he has was a shirt on his back.
Buza said it's heartbreaking seeing the destruction of the wildfires, and he told me he's trying to reach out to other friends and family that are in Hawaii to see how he can help. The Red Cross Northwest region has volunteers heading to Maui to help those impacted.
I will go to the shelters and start checking on people and feeding, taking care of people, their physical needs, their mental needs, whatever we can do.
Aaron Hayes tells me he's preparing for the worst when he sees the devastation firsthand. The Red Cross and the Hawaii Community Foundation are asking for money donations that will go to the shelters and families whose homes were burned to the ground.
We know that we're going to have to continue raising resources for both the immediate needs and then the long-term needs, because many families, we know that our account is just under 300 who have lost everything.
The money raised will go toward their high priorities like food, water, and clothing. Buza, who's still trying to figure out how to help his brother and people in Maui, he tells me he's just grateful his brother is alive.
We can start all over. And he was saying, oh, well, we got to start all over again. We got to start all over again. But I just tell him, man, you got your life, you know, at least you're okay.
Volunteers for the Red Cross are also working with their National Reunification Call Center in effort to get families reunited.
It's been a pretty mild start to the weekend, but the heat cranks up this weekend. We're looking at 93 tomorrow and on Sunday, and you will notice that it'll feel pretty humid on both days. This is followed by 87 and the chance for afternoon showers and storms on Monday, 88 with a few stray showers and storms on Tuesday, and then finally we're back to dry weather on Wednesday, highs around 86 with lower humidity. Then we're looking at the upper 80s and low 90s as we head into the rest of the week and then into the upcoming weekend. Maxine?
Finally tonight, the Maryland Zoo announcing a major update on the turtles they've been raising. Today, after months of nurturing and growth, 6 wood turtles that hatched at the zoo were released safely into the wild. The turtles were born last spring, with the zoo's intent being to raise the turtles and release them into a forest in western Maryland. The spot they were released today is the same watershed where their parents were illegally taken. The zoo says they will be regularly checking on them to make sure they're doing okay. That's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud is next. We'll see you again tonight at 10. Have a great night.